Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. We have hopefully a really fun show for you today. I'm joined by Felix Schultz and Andy Green, hosts of the OT podcast. Easily one of the top 2 or 3 Australian watch podcasts out there. Thanks, guys, for coming on the pod. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. From one of our favorite top 3 US Zach named watch editors.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be in such great company as the other illustrious Zachs who you've had on your podcast over the last month or so. It's just been a barrage of Zachs. So we thought, turnabout is fair play. We got to get the OT guys back on the pod. I'm glad we finally did.
Yeah, we're big fans. We're big fans for a long time now. I think, for me, it was 2014 when I first got into Worn and Wound.
Yeah, no, Andy, you had a great interview with our co-founder, Zach Weiss, on the OT podcast just a couple of weeks ago. We'll link to that in the show notes, of course. But I didn't know that your enthusiasm was really traced back to Worn and Wound's origins. That was nice to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's sort of the point that I discovered watch media on the internet.
Yeah, and once you discover watch media on the internet, there's no turning back. It's
here we are.
Yeah,
here we are.
I'm back, by the way. I think hopefully, or maybe not.
Did you cut out for a minute, Felix? I didn't even.
Wow,
we didn't even notice your absence.
Yeah. It's I've got some trying to reconnect blue circle thing. So apologies in advance if that happens.
This is the magic of recording a podcast. From literally across the world. I don't know if you guys could possibly be further away. Of course, you're both in Australia. I'm here on the East Coast of the United States. We'll talk a little bit, I think, about sort of how watch culture is different, in our parts of the world. Maybe before we do that, we always start the Worn and Wound podcast, as you know, with a wrist check. Felix, let me hit you first. What are you wearing today?
I quickly thought this, so we don't really do this on OT, and then I'm like, oh shit, you guys might do this. And so the only watch that I had on my desk as I would, hit go is the very fun and exciting Time Stop D20.
Oh, there you go.
Which anyone out there who knows what it is, well done. It's a watch made for Dungeons and Dragons nerds because it's got a random dice roller built in, a complication never before seen in watches. It's super cool.
That is an incredibly useful complication if you are a certain type of nerd. It's a very useful complication.
Just got a 4, guys. It's not looking good for this podcast.
Is that bad? Is a 4 bad? Do you?
I think low is generally worse than high. These sort of. I mean, we can change the metrics if you want.
Yeah.
Which watch brand will we see with that next year at Watches and Wonders, Felix? Probably Vacheron.
No, I'm going to say Roger Dupuis with the Knights of the Round Table.
That's definitely a Roger Dupuis complication.
Yeah, or perhaps Jacob & Co. with their casino stuff.
Another good choice for sure. Andy, how about you? What are you wearing?
This is it's early here, so it's 7:40. Apple Watch Ultra.
Yeah,
still that's my 5 to 9. You have your 9 to 5 watch during the day, and then I tend to put an Apple Watch on for definitely when I sleep and exercise. So,
yeah.
Do you wear one when you sleep, Andy?
Yeah, I got to track that. I got to track how little I don't sleep. Yeah.
Oh, you weirdo.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that information. I feel like that would it would ruin my day to wake up and realize that you can calculate how poorly I slept. That's not the start of the day I'm looking for.
Yeah, I like it. And for the alarm function, so I have this fear of sleeping through alarms. I think I've done it twice in my entire life, but with the Apple Watch, it just vibrates until you wake up. So it's sort of like someone grabbing your wrist more and more aggressively until you.
Does it start softly and then kind of increase in intensity?
Yeah. Yep.
That's smart. I like it. Yeah, it's nice to wake up in a gentle way rather than to a extremely robust alarm. I had someone ask me, a non-watch person, they asked me, when they found out what I did last week at a kind of a social gathering, they asked me, do you like the Apple Watch? And I was like, yeah, of course I like the Apple Watch is a really good product, objectively. It does exactly what it says it does on the tin, and it's hugely successful. It's kind of hard to argue with it.
Yeah, I've been wearing them pretty consistently for the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Apple started giving them to me. And and it's great for notifications as well, because I never have my phone off silent. So the odds of me answering a phone call are very, very low. But at least with the Apple Watch, again, you get that vibration. You can kind of look at it. You can screen it. You can even take it from your wrist in a pinch. So for me, that's the best bit, so that I don't miss important phone calls. So it's like if Felix is calling me, I can go, nah, don't need to. Discreetly look under the table, be in that call, and then move on and wait for someone more important.
Yeah. Felix, have you ever experimented with a smartwatch? Or you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was just thinking that it's 10 years old now, the Apple Watch. Since talking about the old days of the watch internet, everyone was real worried that it would destroy the industry, and I don't think it has. But no, definitely.
If anything, it's gotten the more robust, over the course of the last 10 years. But yeah, that was a real panic in the industry. Yeah, when the Apple Watch was announced. People thought it was all over.
I do have a Google Pixel Watch floating around, one of the first gen ones that I honestly, I haven't worn it probably in the last 6 months with any consistency. But I have gone through periods of dabbling with smartwatches, and early on I was quite bullish about the dream of having a smartwatch that could replace my phone. Mm-hmm. Like, when eSIMs were sort of coming out, and, you could have it, you could just get your calls, everything through your phone. I'm like, this is potentially not another device to sort of strap you to your phone, but could be used as one to, to free you from it. I don't think that it played out that way, possibly due to, user interface and, big tech not wanting to free us from phones. But, that's what I sort of thought maybe 5 years ago, but I'm not as regular as Andy, certainly, with connected devices.
Yeah. I had it was either a first or second gen Apple Watch for a relatively brief period of time. And that was before they really figured out the fitness tracking and put those extra sensors on it. And I just remember thinking I'm getting so many notifications, and it's just not the experience that I was looking for. And I don't know. I've thought over the years maybe it's time to give it another shot. But I don't want to double wrist, and I don't want to I don't want to lose my mechanical watches. I want to wear them as often as often as I can. So,
do you double wrist, Andy?
No. I mean, there was a phase when I wanted to keep both, and now it's just smartwatch is just for sleep and exercise. That's it.
Okay, it's a tool.
That's it. If I wear it a little bit around the house, I wear it a little bit around the house. I wouldn't take it. Yeah, aside from the gym, I wouldn't take it outside of the house.
Yeah, right. Yep. Fair enough.
But I can easily see how you would just go Apple Watch 100% of the time.
It's a great watch.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. Yeah,
straps are great. Strap systems are amazing. Yeah, and they're very robust. I've got I think it's titanium. I went to the gym. I hit it on things because, again, it's not my watch, and I've done 0 to this watch. It's absolutely the same condition as when I got it. So that in itself is pretty impressive.
Yeah. This podcast is not paid for by Apple. We will transition to another to another topic. My wrist check. I'm wearing my my Arcanaut Arc 2 Fordite with a Fordite dial. I wrote a piece for Warning Wound about 2 years of ownership of this watch, kind of looking back and kind of my thoughts on the brand. One of my favorite small independents. They make really cool stuff. Fordite dials. Kind of wild. It gets a lot of comments out in the world. I had a dentist appointment today, and my hygienist was just like, "What is that?" I got to explain Fordite to her, and she rolled her eyes. And here we are.
Wish I didn't ask. Yeah,
yeah.
How's it wear? How's the case? Because they look good.
Yeah,
it wears well.
I think I mean, it's an unusually shaped case, but I find it to be pretty ergonomic, and on my wrist, it wears pretty well. I think if I have about a 7.5 inch wrist. I think if someone had a considerably smaller wrist, it maybe wouldn't work as well. But I think on a larger wrist, especially, it wears pretty nicely. So,
cool.
I like it. They're doing interesting stuff.
It's cool seeing. So that's
all right. Well, I thought I would kind of get the. Yeah, go ahead, Felix.
So I was just saying, it's cool seeing, because Argonaut's James Thompson, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Black Badger.
Yeah. So it's cool seeing him, who's like, again, being in this industry for a long, long time now. He's, sort of been a consultant and third party to quite a range of big brands, but like seeing him build and develop his own, like, 100%, Black Badger project in a way is, it's really cool. And, I'm enjoying that side of it, like seeing that vision evolve.
Yeah, no, for sure. He has a real, like, genuine interest in, like, and not just loom, which I think is like mostly what people sort of associate with him is this like really inventive use of, like loom compounds. But he's really like got a deep interest in materials and applying like different types of materials to watch dials and watch cases. So just like really fascinating brand to kind of like to check out. They're doing very unusual stuff. And like I said, one of my favorites. All right, you guys host the OT podcast, which I made a joke about being one of the top 2 or 3 Australian watch podcasts. It's honestly like one of my favorite like watch podcasts to listen to, and I don't listen to many watch podcasts because I live watches like all day, and I have other interests, as I'm sure you guys do as well. But you guys do such a nice job of like interviewing folks in the industry and talking about watches, and you have this great rapport. I'm wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about what it means to be like a watch person in Australia. Do you think there's like a different aspect to watch culture in Australia than what we might experience here in the States, or is it probably like pretty close to the same?
Let me take this.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, geographically, we're so far from the rest of the world. So you do have the communities here are much smaller and disconnected, whereas, you go to somewhere like the UK or the US, you can hop over, between states and there'll be 4 or 5 different red bars within, a couple of hours. So you do have much broader horizons. It's something we notice when we certainly travel to, say Geneva for Watches and Wonders, where sort of everyone's in the same room and pretty much everyone but the Australians sees each other throughout the year. Mm-hmm. So that's from like a watch media and working in watches perspective. It's sort of similar with the communities here. There's a couple of really strong ones, but they're kind of spread out and there's not a huge amount of options and there's not a huge amount of people. I'd say over the last 10 years, it has matured. So you've got, more serious players and more serious collectors and a lot more as far as sort of secondhand resellers as well that sort of lift things up as well. Some of the groups have gotten pretty big, especially like the Facebook groups. So it's similar, but there is that sort of cultural difference just because of the disconnect with the rest of the world, I think. What do you think, Felix?
Yeah, I'd echo that sort of sentiment, and certainly that I think, wherever you are in the world, there'll be sort of, different groups and things go in and out of fashion from a community point of view. But yeah, I do think, there's a phrase that's sort of fairly famous in Australia, the tyranny of distance, which means that, not only are we isolated, and we see less stuff, like, we're sort of really dependent on, the novelties will hit the market for, a week, and they'll go to Sydney, they'll go to Melbourne, and, they'll have client events. And then, 7 months later, there might be one in the shop, whatever it is. So, and some stuff we don't get, there's a lot of brands we don't have representation for.
Yeah, by the time you bring over, the Asia Pacific CEO or someone from Switzerland, the Carnet stock, maybe organize an ambassador, that's their big moment for the year. Whereas that sort of thing would happen in New York probably every week with, the retailers and yourselves and Houdini. Like it's a far bigger occurrence. So for us, it's sort of, there's probably 4 really big moments throughout the year and that all the brands sort of time things together. But it's changing as the market grows, and we have to appreciate that the market size is probably the biggest dictator of that. And we're seeing much more brand representation here. So there's weird things like, I think we have one retailer for AP in the whole country at the moment.
Yeah.
Just one. And there's 27 million people here.
Whereas I think pretty much all the Richemont brands have boutiques, which is, it's part of their policy, I'm assuming, but it's a strange market in some ways.
There are more AP retailers in New York City than there are Starbucks now, which is an interesting fact. So there are.
That's a great fact.
Yeah. Don't bother fact checking me on that. It's 100% true.
Doesn't matter. That's
been verified.
There's probably more more AP dealers in Victoria than Starbucks as well. Zero. This I don't think there's any. I think they came and they didn't last. Our coffee culture was too strong.
Yeah, we don't like Starbucks.
That's a good coffee pun. Also, thanks. I just wanted to recognize that. Yeah, that's. I'm fascinated by like the way. Like different parts of the world sort of like experience watches. I think like you're correct to kind of like identify like New York as sort of like at least like in America, like the center of like the watch world here. You know, like every new release comes through New York at some point from brands large and small. I don't live in New York. I live in Concord, New Hampshire, which is like a 4-hour train ride from New York, and like I feel sometimes like disconnected from that part of the industry. Like there's like new releases that we'll photograph and write about for Warner Month, like I never see, just because I'm not in the office all the time or it can't be shipped to me or whatever. So like geography really does like play a huge role, I think, in how folks experience the hobby, because access is so important to these physical objects. Right?
Yeah. Even the amount of things that, like, so we're in Melbourne, the amount of things that would happen in Sydney, and it's kind of like, oh, if we're there that week in Sydney, or if we can fly up quickly, amazing. But otherwise, you just miss out. And so I'd say it's every other week we get invited to some sort of brand thing happening in Sydney, and you go, do we fly for this? Probably not, because why would we? And so just where you're based in the country is pretty influential. But yeah, if you're in Sydney or Melbourne, there's a good chance there's enough happening.
I have that exact same experience with getting invited to like New York City based events, and I respond back saying, "Well, let me check and see if I have a colleague in the city who's available for that."
I think the other thing about that's sort of increasingly relevant to me in where the watch community is at in 2025, it's sort of evolved and changed, but so have I. Like, where's Felix at in 2025 in watches is also very different. Like 10 years ago, I was like trying to experience everything and find, discover everything and, hang out everywhere. These days, it's more like, I'm going to catch up with some friends. Like, it's going to be work, or it's going to be, who's going to be there that's going to be nice to catch up with and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah, no, 100%. I think that, when I first started doing this professionally, there was like a real, it was so much fun, to travel and to go on the press trips and et cetera, et cetera. Like, obviously COVID changed a lot of things too, in terms of like what's available in terms of those types of experiences. But I think that's a sentiment I've heard from a lot of folks in the, kind of watch media world who've been at it for a while, is you get to a point where things start to feel the same, and you start wanting to give that experience to other people, perhaps. And I don't know. I like being at home too. Like I really value just sort of like, the time I have to myself, where I don't have to be like a professional watch person all the time. So you're totally right. As we age and change, and our predispositions to kind of like having those sorts of experiences changes along with it, for sure.
The joke that Andy and I repeat fairly frequently these days is that when we started going to the trade fairs, we were the young guys, and they were like the old German trade press, sort of grumpy old men wandering around Basel and complaining about new releases and kids. I think at this point we're pretty close to being the grumpy old men.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely in that in that phase of my professional life, for sure. And Andy, you talked about this with Zach in your podcast about the how when you started going to the to Basel, you were the bloggers who were kind of like the upstarts against the old school like print publications, and then the blogs had their day, and now it's it's TikTokers and and Instagram influencers who are kind of coming up, and it just the sun sets for everybody. I guess at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keeping things light on Worn and Wound.
We're still listen. I'm learning all the TikTok dances. You're going to start seeing those on TikTok any day now.
Little Apple dance for the Worn and Wound /OT podcast.
Yeah, no, I think we can make that happen. We're going to be all over your algorithm. I think is definitely in the future. I think the last time we had you guys on the podcast, you came on to talk about your collaboration with Anardane, which was a really fun release. I'll never kind of like get that, that image of that pink watch and the Homer Simpson donut like out of my head. It's just such a such a cool project. I'm wondering. I don't think have you guys had like another like collaboration since then, or was that you had
the one and only?
The Android.
Look, we're not an e-commerce business, Zach. We don't need to churn out 17 limited editions a year to remain viable.
Yeah, we might be working on something.
Are you working on
something? Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I've got no idea what's happening. It's over at the design department.
I was going to ask if you had your, if you had your pick, like what kinds of brands would you like to work with if you were to make another limited edition? You don't have to give anything away about any future projects, but what do you?
We like the Scots,
yeah,
but we also like creating things that are accessible, a bit more affordable, than say an Anardane. So, if there was a brand out there that really shared the same sort of values and ethos as Anardane, but perhaps could create a high volume at a low price point, that's owned by the same person, that would be a great brand to collaborate with.
Yeah, well, I think there might be a brand that
anything comes to mind.
There is one that comes to mind. What was that experience like for you? You've had a few years to kind of like look back on the the Anardane collaboration, and it sounds like maybe or maybe not you've thought about another collaboration. What was that like? To kind of like to go through that whole process.
It was
time in the rear view now.
It was a bit surreal, like because it sort of happened like, late 2019, early 2020. And it wasn't, I think we were even maybe recording with Lewis. Like
it started 2020. It was sort of, Lewis reached out maybe 6 months into the podcast and sort of put the suggestion out there, and we sort of started working on it. And then 2021 happened, which was when Anardane really exploded. Like from the point of suggesting it to the point of actually getting close to releasing it, their wait list became a massive thing.
Yes.
And so he'd already sort of said, yeah, let's do it and put the wheels in motion. He would never do it again just because of the wait list and demand.
Too many headaches.
And it was 60 pieces, which is like a month of their production or something. Or it was.
More, 2 months.
So that was pretty, it was a huge allocation. But sort of spending a lot of time with Lewis earlier this year, I went to Scotland for about a week and hung out with him and met the whole crew. It was, he came to us because he was commuting from the Scottish Highlands to Glasgow, sort of up and down every week. And we were one of his kind of COVID treats that he would enjoy in the car. And so he really just appreciated having, and I think we were pumping out like 2 episodes a week.
Yeah, we were.
So he just really appreciated the company, I suppose. And that's why he reached out, which was really nice. And so it was an absolute like honor for Felix and I to even be considered for something like that, because we didn't bring much to the equation, to be honest, other than
look, I think we did. I think we brought a vision that was sort of like it, and that's the first time I've ever, because I can be, I'm sure everyone, on this call can be quite critical of the sort of the media limited edition or the influencer limited edition, because they are, they so rarely have like a point of identity to them, beyond this is the model, we've changed the dial, here's the PR narrative we can come up with. And to a degree we did that, like the realities of production and, seeing what's possible is fascinating. But I think certainly for me, I have a deep, love of that sort of mid-century field design, and also a love of deeply whimsical, unserious watches. So being able to combine those two was great. I mean,
they're the best. They're the best, and what he's doing with Analdane and Paulin is incredible. I mean, it's funny. I sort of documented the whole trip and just been watching it back. Yesterday, I got sent a cut of the thing, so working on like a little, almost like a mini documentary of what they're up to. Yeah, which Felix was meant to have watched, but I doubt he did.
I'm halfway through it, mate.
Halfway through it. It's almost like the watch brand is the vehicle for him to achieve his goal, which isn't like he's not in it to make money or to sell a lot of watches. He's in it to sort of really keep old crafts alive, which is sort of one of their sort of slogans. It's old crafts, new hands. He really is. Like every time he makes a bit of money or sells some watches, he either gets more equipment, gets a bigger space, or hires, 3 art students and figures out what to do with them.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah. It's to me, it strikes at like, I was from the bit of watching, some of his employers are like luthiers. So they make guitars or, stringed instruments.
They trained as luthiers, but there's obviously no jobs making guitars in Glasgow. So he's hired them as very talented carpenters.
Yeah.
He's got a haberdashery person. He's got, engravers, jewelers. He's got Abby who just makes bespoke straps, and she spends like 3 days on a strap, and they're incredible. If you haven't got one, you should check them out. And it's none of this stuff to me could possibly make commercial sense, but as a way of keeping crafts and keeping people employed, it seems to, and that just genuinely seems to be what he wants to do.
Yeah, no, Lewis is honestly one of my favorite people, in the watch community, for all the reasons you kind of outline. His, dedication to like keeping those sorts of like that sort of craft alive. Have you guys seen the porcelain dial?
Yeah.
Yet? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really great. And I think that just like opens up so many possibilities for them. Because as you point out, their wait list is so long. And
you know why though? I actually engraved a dial at their factory, and I didn't fully appreciate why their wait list is how it is. But the failure rate on those dials is like 95%. And so someone can work for a week, they can do the enameling, wait and get a good one, and then engrave it, and they can at any point they can mess it up.
It's wild.
Well, because the engraving, there's no turning back. But then they can get to the engraving can be perfect. They can chuck it back in the kiln to put the enamel on, or to kind of finish it, or they put the feed on and it cracks the dial. And so there were tubs and tubs and tubs of defect dials, and I was looking at them going, "Oh, what's wrong with this one? Oh, sort of fume is like a little bit too big. This one's a little bit." I'm looking at them going, "I'd pass this, I'd pass that, I'd pass this." But the standard of what they will not pass was incredible. Like there must have been dozens of kilos of just defect dials that someone spends basically a week on and then goes, "Oh, no, can't use it. Better start again."
Here's what they do use them for. Little Analdane Christmas decorations.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's very clever. They really do have such an incredibly high standard. Like I've observed that there have been a bunch of sort of, I don't know if I would just call them like, I guess they're like sort of like imitators. Like other brands have kind of like come along sort of in the wake of Analdane, and they make dials. They make enamel dials, and some of them are nice. And the people who run these brands are often like very, very nice people, and they're they have cool ideas, and they're not quite at the same level though as like Analdane has like some sort of special sauce that like keeps those dials at like an extremely high level of quality. And I think you're right that's why people wait for them.
Yeah, there's the QC. There's the fact that that they're made in Scotland. They're not made in in Asia or even Switzerland, where manufacturing is cheaper.
Right.
But Lewis, before he really started Analdane, he hired a jeweler, rented a studio, and paid this guy full time to figure out how to enamel watch dials for 2 years. Like out of his own pocket, for 2 years, he was paying someone to figure out. He said, "I want to make enamel dials. I want to do it here." That was like the initial investment from him in that business. And that's sort of been the process over and over with different things that they do. It's like he decides he wants to do it, and then he just figures out how to do it, and however long it takes is how long it takes.
Yep.
Which I mean, in some ways, it's exactly what, the big brands, will do. Like Jaeger or whoever it is has highly talented craftspeople on payroll that do produce minuscule amounts of work, but, they're also backed by a, multi-billion-dollar corporation. So they can kind of make it, make a bit more sense.
Lewis from Glasgow.
It's
a bit different.
5 dudes in a warehouse. But yeah.
Well, he talks about living on £80 a week. Him and his wife, and all of his wage was going to pay someone else to do it because that's how much he believed in the idea of it and how much he wanted to do it. So I think it's very cool. I think he's a very cool guy, and the watch industry is lucky to have someone like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Completely agree. What else excites you guys about kind of like the current moment in watches? Like what, are there any like new releases from this year, or like kind of like new, sort of, I don't know, trend is like a word that I don't like, but anything kind of like happening in the industry that like has you particularly excited at the moment?
From a product point of view, Andy's borrowing a couple of, exciting.
Yeah, I've got some cool stuff at the moment. Some stuff from Cartier. I got a few watches I really like. I got the small Cartier Santos Cartier that came out this year, the sort of that new small size in bimetal, which I love. I remember posting the sort of the full gold version and everyone going, what is this? And I think, they did one of those things where they show us, but they don't put any details out.
There was no press release.
4 or 5 months. And then you never really see it. And there's a lot of ambiguity over it, which I kind of like because it happened last year with the other watch that I took, which is the Panther in large size in full gold. And that was one where it was sort of like we were shown it at Watches and Wonders, weren't really told much about it. And then I don't think I've seen it in a boutique until probably a couple of months ago. So a year and a bit later. Both quartz watches, both, pretty classic designs. The Panther is probably one of the most comfortable watches I've ever worn. The bracelet is just so nice and so kind of silky, smooth and buttery to wear. The size is fantastic as well. Even like in the large, it's sort of obviously a large, sort of more classic design, but with a quartz movement, it's super slim. So, we always talk about fitting under the cuff. This thing just basically wraps around your wrist like it's custom fit. It's a really special watch, and I almost don't care that it's quartz at this point. There's a steel and there's a two-tone version of that, which are probably more accessible for me price-wise. I think the retail on this is be in the realm of like low 30s US. And the Santos in small, that's been really cool to wear. It's sort of, there's a novelty to it of wearing such a small watch. For day-to-day, I'm a big fan of the Santos and I kind of want to get one. And I've debated which size because I always go for a smaller size. But this one is probably a touch small for me every day just based on the legibility of it. I'm sort of an old man now at this point. And so the glasses, it is a little bit.
Feel that in a major way. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit. But I really love the design. So in that case, I'd probably go to the medium Santos and be very, very happy. But there's just something nice about kind of picking up and putting on a really classic, iconic design from
for sure,
from a brand like Cartier and just going, this is great. And there's a reason these are really popular. People love them, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, and it doesn't have to be a Rolex. It doesn't have to be horology. It can just be like a really good design.
Yeah. Yep.
That is nice to wear.
Yeah, I think that medium Santos, that is like similar to how like a 36 millimeter Datejust is sort of like the right size for that watch, or for that, like for the Oyster case in general. I think the medium Santos is like the right size for that watch. I appreciate some of the larger models and then complicated models, and the smaller ones, if you have the right wrist for it, are great. But that medium size is like universally good for anybody, I think.
Keeping with Cartier for a minute, I had a similar experience. So I tried on the new Tonk LC, the big size that they released in Geneva. And before then, like as a man with a large wrist, I had sort of in my head accepted the fact that a Cartier for Felix is a delicate, slightly small watch. You know, like the regular size Cartiers, with the exception, I think, of the larger Americaine, they're all like, you know, it's going to be a little watch on my wrist. And that's, you know, part of the aesthetic and the vibe. And I don't think it was till I tried this larger sized LC on where I was like, whoa, this actually is exponentially better for me. Like I'm not having to sort of say the aesthetic compromise or the aesthetic, you know, do that sort of mental gymnastics to go, this is a vintage small classic design, hence it should be small on my wrist. I can just go, no, this is, you know, the perfect size, you know, proportionally and for comfort and everything in that, you know, now that I guess XL, I'm not sure what they're calling it, that large size LC.
I think it's just called large.
Yeah. But that was a really interesting thing for me. Like, yeah, no, it's not that large. Cartier aren't, you know, making 47 millimeter, you know, U-boats out there. But it's nice to see some plus size representation in the watch world where it matters.
Yes, for sure. I mean, Cartier just like, that's the power of good design. Like they can, you know, make a watch at any size that feels, you know, that feels appropriate for what it is. I wanted to ask you guys, since you, Andy, you mentioned the Cartier meeting at Watches and Wonders. Does that meeting for you guys have the same mix of like pure joy and like high anxiety that it does for me? Because it's like, it's a very intense meeting because it's so many, they show you like 100 watches and you have like a couple of seconds maybe with each one. And it's just like, I find it to be like sensory overload, like, but in like a really fun way. But I always come out of it thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with these like photos? And like, maybe some of them are in focus, you know, like what happens next? It's just, it's a crazy,
I love Cartier is the brand that I really sort of look forward to more than even a Rolex at this point, because you know that they're going to come out with some bangers. We have the privilege of sort of so far working with Cartier every year around the Watches and Wonders time. So we ended up having 3 or 4 pretty solid appointments with them for, you know, just purely for content, product, interviewing Pierre Raniero for our annual chat as well, which is always great. So we spend a bit of time with them.
Oh, that's good. I got to figure out how to do that. I need to get have just a little bit more time with some of these watches.
But I mean, it's also like it's also what you get out of it. Like, you know, like for Worn and Wound, Cartier might not be core business.
No, but it's a personal, you know, point of interest for, you know, for some of us at least on that trip review. And we all look forward to it. And it's one of those meetings. Yeah. We try to like divide and conquer a lot of times at Watches and Wonders, but that's a meeting that we try to take as a
everyone tries to go to
whenever we can, because it's just like it's a big communal experience.
For me, there are 3 brands at Watches and Wonders that I am genuinely, personally excited about beyond a professional level. And it's really telling, I think, that none of them are traditional watchmaker. Well, one of them is. So Cartier is one. Cartier always excite and delight and surprise me in that really childish way. The other 2 that I really love for no real work-related reason are Hermes and Chanel.
Yeah. So we've never met with Chanel, and I think we need to change that and do that.
Their watchmaking is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, do it for the press gift alone. Yeah,
I've heard.
It's always good.
Yeah. Hermes, though, I can say like that is a great meeting. Like they always have just like incredible artisanal stuff.
That watch with the horse this year.
The horse,
best watch of the fair.
Yeah,
it's funny. I just did my GPHG voting. I don't know if you're a.
I need to do that. I'm going to do that. Maybe after we get off this call, I'll do that.
It's always great to discover brands you've never heard of for the first time as a finalist for these categories. But that horse, the Hermes horse watch, was I think in the men's or in one of the complication categories, which was pretty cool to see, because that is just such a fun piece. It's one of the beauties of a brand like Hermes doing something like that.
Yeah, no, it's quite silly. I was wondering what brands you'd mentioned, Felix, that you're really looking forward to. The one that I always look forward to is Hublot, because it's just like you see like you see all the wildest and craziest stuff.
Yeah,
just kind of
50 diamonds on the bracelet.
the wild tourbillons, the sapphire cases, the Saxum cases. It's just that's another one. I like the meetings that are like sensory overload, where they just show you like a lot of watches,
and the ones that like
overwhelm you,
where you don't have to be stressing as much about like, oh, I have to turn this into 300 words in 45 minutes. You know, like they're the ones that happen at the end of the week.
Yeah, no, that's very like when you have the meeting in relation to like your last day at PAL Expo is like a very critical thing as well. Do you guys enjoy Watches and Wonders, right? It's like you're not so jaded to the point where it's like, oh, Watches and Wonders.
We are a small operation, Zach. So when it's one of us going, it's pretty torturous.
Yeah,
but we both went this year. And it was much more.
It was fun. It was like a little boys' trip. A
little bit too much fun. There were a couple of times when we should have gone back to our hotels and done a bit of work, and instead we went out. And
that's part of the experience, though. It's like
I've got a real cycle. It's like that stages of grief in the time leading up to it. Like there's excitement when it's announced, then it's mostly sort of resentment, dread, and anger, and then it's excitement at the end, and then it's resentment, dread, and anger. All the work I've got to do.
Comes back to your first question around community and being connected. For us, it's like it's the time of the year where we get on the bus, and I was looking through my phone the other day. I've got a video of Felix, Zach, Kat, all on the bus in front of me, and that's just like normal. And as people that are into watches, and we read, we consume Hodinkee and World Around and all these other podcasts and blogs as well. You just get on a bus and then everyone is around you. Like that's very cool, and it's the sort of place where you're just constantly bumping into, international colleagues and people from brands that have moved markets, and it's that one opportunity you get to sort of see people in person, and that I think that's really special to me. Especially as the years go on.
And for me,
for me as well.
I've been doing it for 15 years. These relationships are, longer than a lot of my friendships. Like I've been seeing, Adam Craniotes in Geneva once a year, and in Dubai, and in, I don't know, Singapore or wherever randomly, for more than I see, friends that I live around the corner from. It's a wild little thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a similar experience, again, being slightly disconnected from like the New York watch world. Like I have American, colleagues who work for different publications that like, I'd see very frequently if I was going to like every New York City, event, but like, I know I'm going to see them in Geneva for Watches and Wonders. And it's special, because of that. And, obviously it's great to get to see, you guys, because I know I'm not running into you at like a random like New York, event, although it'd be great. It'd be great if I did. If you can't
see how we go,
wind up or something in the future, that'd be awesome. But yeah, no, with like the international press, getting a chance to to see everyone in one place, it is a special thing for sure.
And a question: when you run into the other Zachs, is it like a Highlander situation? Do you meet in the PAL Expo and like someone's head's going to come off at the end of it?
Yeah, so we all get along. I mean, obviously, like Zach Weiss and I get along very well, very very closely.
He's great.
But I see I see Zach Pena at a handful of like American kind of like media events, and always at Watches and Wonders. He's a great guy, and then of course there's Zach Blass, who writes for an Australian publication,
global now, Time and Tide. I think global home of watch culture.
Roots in Australia, but. It's and he's a great. I was actually just DMing with him earlier today about something so tangentially related to watching. But he's
you haven't been on OT yet, Dak.
You guys got to
get the final one to collect.
You guys look, and also he's he would be a fun conversation for you guys to have. Also, are you familiar with Zach Smith? Who runs Our Precision, which is a manufacturing company based in Ohio, and he makes like a lot of like watch components for for mostly American brands. Really kind of like doing interesting work. You kind of like changing the face of American watch manufacturing. But that's yet another watch industry Zach. They're just pioneers.
And is it Zach Weiss? No. There's another Zach in the industry that is like brand side that I get emails from every so often. No, we got nothing there.
So there is a Zachary Weiss in the kind of in like the luxury industry.
Okay.
So it's
not a Zach though.
Yeah, no, he goes by Zachary, and they do get their emails kind of like mixed up from time.
Is there any Zachs without the H or K, like ZAC? Is there anyone rolling around, or like any Zanies, like ZAK?
I don't think so, but we would not accept them in the. That's a totally diffent thing.
Who's the Zack Snyder of Watch Industry?
Go by Zach.
Listen, I think we got to keep it core Zach here.
Core Zach.
Zachary's and Zach's only.
No Isaacs. Just to be clear.
I don't think so. And only one Weiss. No offense to Zachary Weiss, but Zach. I mean,
wow.
Zach Weiss, Morning Found gets priority, at least on this podcast.
Makes sense.
For sure. Yeah. No, really do appreciate you shining a light on the watch industry.
The Zachs of the world. Yeah.
There's another tangentially related Andrew Green in watches as well.
Is there?
Yeah. Do you remember when Rolex they were sponsoring the fastest vehicle in the world, the Bloodhound? Rocket.
Yeah. The land speed record, yeah.
Andrew Green was the pilot.
He broke it, and they engraved this was like 2015, 2016, and they engraved like an Air King with his name on the back and posted a picture. And then this was early in Watch Instagram, so people actually thought Rolex had custom engraved a Air King for me, and I was getting tagged in all the comments. That was cute.
You should try and buy it.
I bet. I mean, is that the reason for your like massive following?
That's it. Yeah, that was that moment.
It's not the years and years of consistent, excellent photography and carefully curated social engagement. It's that one dude.
It was that.
Every once in a while, I'll get a like or something from Andy Green Live, and I just think, oh man, this is like tens of thousands of followers.
It's like watch a niche liking something.
Yeah. It's a special moment. I wanted to ask you guys. So, I mean, obviously, like we're deep into watches. We think about watches all the time. We work in watches professionally. What else kind of like gets you excited? You were very kind on your podcast to kind of like ask me about movies. We spent way more time talking about movies than watches, which I'm grateful for. But like what are some of the things that kind of like get you excited or refresh you sort of, like outside of the watch world? How do you like sort of like keep that enthusiasm fresh with other things?
Well, I can go. You got to have other hobbies. You have to, when the hobby becomes more and more work, you have to find other hobbies. So
for sure,
I've just dabbled in classic Porsches and bought myself a 1999 911.
Nice.
So that's become a money pit and a whole new world for me to learn about. This isn't working. Getting on Reddit, getting in the car forums, and sort of having a thing that I can drive around and share with other people as opposed to watches, which is sort of a little bit selfish as a hobby. So that's been cool. And then you sort of meet the same people. Like I've become friends with my mechanic as you do when you pay them lots of money. And then you kind of have chats with him about watches, and he likes, he sort of says, oh yeah, I like watches. And he's got this Tag Heuer. That's pretty cool. It's one of the, I don't know what it is, but he's got the diver's extension clasp. So for when he's working on cars, he pops out the extension, like on a Sea Dweller or something, and slides it down his wrist a bit. But still, it's absolutely beaten up.
Tag Heuer is going to pick up on that and call it the driver's clasp now. Like it's going to become a limited edition in 4 years' time as part of their F1 sponsorship.
Yeah. So finding like other hobbies that are kind of genuine hobbies has been good for me. And there's all like heaps of overlap. Like, watch guys like movies, watch guys like cars, watch guys like coffee. So getting into sort of espresso machines and that sort of stuff as well. I mean, photography is the big one as well.
Yeah.
There tends to be a fair bit of overlap, but just having something else that you can talk about, I find is much more interesting, especially when you're talking to people about watches, a couple of times a week.
No, it's essential, I think, to have something to kind of like occupy your mind and like decompress from watches. Like I always say, like it makes me better at like writing about watches and talking about watches to be able to like put my mind to work in other areas for sure. How about you?
Yeah, it keeps it passionate.
Look, I don't have an expensive 90s Porsche to spend my non-existent money on, but I am getting into, and I mean this does, it's tangentially like related a lot to film, which was probably one of my first loves. My first proper job that I maybe love more than watches was working in a video store. until they all died. But I'm really getting in
video stores.
Yeah, I know. There's in Melbourne, there's a museum where they've recreated essentially a non-branded Blockbuster to let the children understand what the past was, which I find is adorable. Like you can rent stuff out of there. It's great. I'm really getting into a lot of conceptual, like sci-fi art from the 80s and 90s that is like used in movies a lot, like Mobius and Giga and all these guys that, influence this stuff. And again, that's the sort of thing where you look at it and go, oh, I could buy that. And then you look at the prices of, original posters or, concept art or whatever, and you go, no, this is as much a thing as watches. So
yeah,
it has to
listen. All the fun hobbies are really expensive, without exception. There's no such thing as a really fun, inexpensive hobby that you can do cheaply or for free.
I think photography. You can get a reasonably, you can
do it with a phone. Like, you can
do it with a phone. You don't have to spend, even with watches, you don't have to. Yeah, that's why it's such a great website. Yeah. You don't have to spend a lot. Probably my favorite category on the GBHG, to go back to that, was I don't know if it was there last year, but there's a whole category of under $1,000 watches.
The challenge?
Is it the challenge category?
Yeah, the challenge. Yeah, maybe it was there last year.
It's pretty dull last year.
There was I want to say at least 70 watches.
Yeah.
And half I'd heard of, half I hadn't. Like, this is great. This is so interesting. These all are really cool.
Podcast guests.
Yeah. Well, there was, even one like D1 Milano up there with their, skeleton paper watch thing. Like, that's cool. I think that's cool that there's still people pumping out watches for $100,000, because it's not easy in this day and age as well.
Yeah, no, it's truly hard to like break through and have like an original idea that resonates with people. I think a lot of people kind of like fall into the trap of thinking like, oh, I can like, source a lot of like Chinese manufacturing and like, cobble something together and sell it, and I'll, be a watch millionaire or something. And like that is not reality. Even if you do have a successful watch, kind of like in that vein, then you have to do it again. Then you have to do it again after that. And it's very tough in this sort of like, watches are mainstream now. Like you really have to have like a good idea for it to make sense.
100%.
Agree.
Yeah. Felix, Andy, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast. Again, we should do this more often. Just keep having Zach's on your podcast. And
we've got 2 more to find. So.
Yeah, 2 more to find, and then you start the cycle again. And I'll be happy to join you then. And we'll definitely have you back on. Before your next hypothetical collab or
that's not what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Could be anything. But yeah, we'll get you back on soon. We won't let 5 years go by again, or 4 years, however long it's been, because it's always fun to chat with you.
100%.
Back at you anytime.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Warner Mom Podcast. Check the show notes so you can find the OT podcast and Andy and Felix on Instagram and everywhere else they appear. Until then, take care.